We may live over 5,000 miles from Lincoln Financial Field, but what we lack in proximity, we make up for in film study. And each and every week, we'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns from across the pond and the Sooner State. Welcome to On the Shane page. I'm your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. And I'm joined by BGN's own film guru, Jonny Page. Give him a follow at JohnnyPage9. Johnny, how are you doing this evening?
I am doing well. A little bit annoyed, obviously, about the weekend. Just weird about a fan, Shane, especially as you're an analyst, is there was a part of me that was like, and this is a very bad part of being an Eagles fan, but I was like, maybe a loss is not the worst thing in the world. Maybe they needed to realise that what they were doing was not sustainable. Because it's all very well people like us coming on the show and talking about how the offense is wrong, but people can just say, well, they're 4-0, they're 4-0. And I was like, yeah, but they weren't 4-0 good. The numbers on the offense are like, and I'm sure everyone knows who's listening, they are atrocious. Like, they are bad than like the worst offenses like the Titans and stuff on like 3-and-outs and stuff. Like, you can't win a Super Bowl. You can't be that good playing that sustainable offense. Like, it's not sustainable. So in a weird way, I was like, rather than fluke out another win, like, imagine if they catch the Hail Mary, and this week's very different. It's like, obviously, we wanted to win, but a GGN10 comment, yeah, I think we needed a bit of humbling. I think coaches needed humbling. I think they can't just expect to win these games. They have to realise that simply they have to be better. So, yeah, frustrating loss, but also, like, not the end of the world in the grand scheme of things. Tough first 5 fixtures to go 4-1. I am fascinated by tomorrow because it's a short week. But I think they have to make some changes. So I think we might get an idea like quite quickly if things are going to change. But yeah, how do you think about? I guess you didn't watch live this week, did you? So
I did not.
So you knew they lost going into it as well.
No, I did not.
You didn't. You hit
yeah.
it.
When I'm not able to watch live, I turn everything off so I don't find out. And so I didn't know going into it what happened. I got to experience that letdown alongside everybody else just a couple hours later.
That's what I do when I watch in the mornings. That would be me Friday morning as well. That would be me getting up at 5 a.m. Yeah, Thursday night games suck more than anything, and nothing makes it even worse than being from the UK means I can't watch them live either. So not only do I spend all week working because I have to do everything in 3 days, I then don't even get to watch the game live. So it's just great fun. It's I hate Thursday night games. Ban them. Yeah, breaded lips. That stat. I mean, commenting in 20% of drives result in 0 on negative. It's horrendous. But you know what, Shane? Do you know what it said we were going to do last week? This offense doesn't deserve our takes. So despite everyone tuning in probably wanting us to moan about the offense, they're going to go second today because they don't deserve to start. We can't start every pod with the same thing. And in all honesty, some of my offensive takes are probably going to be quick this week because a little bit will be like...
I don't believe you. Your takes are never quick.
We'll see. But a lot of these things are going to be like, it's the same as we've said every single week. There's only so many times we can say the same things. But anyway, shall we start with the defensive side this week?
Let's do it. So we are going to hop in and talk defense first this week. Why don't I lead us off and talk about Kelee Ringo? A lot of you guys got a lot of Kelee Ringo information a week ago. When Eric did a Kelee Ringo player spotlight. And so he got the start, for the second week in a row. And it seemed like that was a decision that they made because Adoree Jackson did come in later in the game, so he was healthy. And I just wanted to point out some things that I saw from Ringo. And a little bit of good, a little bit of bad. Overall, I would keep playing him. But Kelee Ringo down at the bottom of the screen here. And he's going to give up a curls, comeback, whatever you want to call it route here. But I just want you to watch. This is one of Ringo's biggest issues. And so see where he's starting off here. He's about 3 yards shy of the 40-yard line. And watch how far he backpedals before he drop steps. So really only about 3.5 yards, right? So he's only backpedaling from off coverage about 3.5 yards before he opens up his hips to run. And once he does that, it's game over. He doesn't have that hip fluidity. And the thing is, Ringo's fast. Like, he doesn't have to drop step and turn to run that early on in the rep. And I'm going to show you 2 other examples of him doing it later in this. But before that, because I just went in chronological order, he's at the top of the screen here, and this is a poor rep in the run game. Just watch the angle he takes. I'm not sure what he's doing because, like, he's on a track to cut this off. And then he like hesitates and comes inside. And, fortunately, Cooper DeJean grabs the jersey there, and Ringo's ultimately not needed on the play. But this could have easily been him giving up the edge in a pretty big way if DeJean wasn't able to grab a hold there. So that's something to talk about. But then I want to show you 2 examples of him doing a better job on these vertical routes. And it's not just because these both go vertical, but watch him on this play. He's at the 42, or excuse me, he's 3 yards shy of the 50. And watch how far he backpedals. Like, he goes almost an extra 1.5 to 2 yards before he opens his hips to run there. And he still, with ease, is able to stay on top of the receiver. And then this next one at the top of the screen, he's actually going to backpedal. He's at the 50. He's going to backpedal almost 7 yards this time before he opens his hips to run. And he's still able to stay in phase. Now, he doesn't do a good job of getting his head around there. And that flag was picked up, by the way, as it should have been. It wasn't a strong play back into him. But you open yourself up to that, as we all saw in the Jags-Chiefs game Monday night, when you're not turning around to find the ball. So he does need to work on that. But he has speed to be able to stay in that back pedal longer. And I thought some of his worst plays, other than like tackling related things, are when he's opening those hips to run too early. But overall, I thought it was a fine performance from Ringo. There was some bad. There was some good, though. And I think it's enough that I would continue to play him.
Yeah, I sort of went into the game expecting the worst because obviously the 2-point conversion was poor. And then
Oh, yes. I meant to put that clip in, and I forgot, and then I didn't have time to add it in.
If you want to look at it, it's right to the bottom of my film thread. So it would be like one of the very, very last plays.
Yeah, you can't lose outside here.
That's
2-point conversion, it's condensed. He's likely condensing to run outside, and if he is crossing, there's bodies in the middle at least. So yeah, that's a good shout on that one. That was a bad rep from Ringo. So you can't lose outside there.
I don't mean it in a nasty way, but I think he's a bit like naive's the wrong word. Stupid's obviously way too harsh, but I don't think I think his body's better than his mind a lot of the time. And I would stick with him. And I must admit, I think the last 2 weeks, I know it's a risk, but what else are they going to put out there? Jacorian Bennett looks like he holds every time I watch him cover someone. Even when he makes a good coverage rep, I still think he could easily get called for PI every single time. And Adoree Jackson is Adoree Jackson. Like, if you want to go back to him, fair enough. But what's the long gain? You can go back to Adoree Jackson week 10 if you need to. Like, I don't see the need to do it now. I think Ringo is easily the most physically talented. And I think his physicality in the run game, by the way, helps quite a lot. I felt like after this game, I'd be disappointed if we don't these Giants receivers, by the way. It's a great chance to get anyone's confidence up because they suck. But I would give him a chance. I take it you're on the same page, no pun intended, after watching his film this week?
Yeah, I would absolutely leave Ringo out there.
Yeah, I don't think it was as bad as people said.
No, same.
And yeah, good. Such a good job. And it's not even technique in terms of like physically, like I don't think he's doing things because he can't physically handle it. I think it's just a case of maybe lack of confidence, maybe a little bit of like not trusting his technique fully. Yeah, good comment, Breaded Lips. If I only had the confidence of Mills. Yeah, he's got more physical talent than Mills, that's for sure. Right, I want to talk about, to be honest, I didn't know where to go with the defense this week, and I should have almost had like a big picture thought at the start about like, I don't really know how they played. I know some shows that were out there were really critical of the defense, and I couldn't get there. So I know some people, some of the podcasts I listened to post-game were blaming the defense more than the offense, and I couldn't get there. I think the biggest thing that we should talk about more this week was that fatigue really was this week. So I want to show you a few clips of early on. If you'd literally just show the first, second clips. And to be honest, these aren't plays I particularly want to look at for any particular reason, other than to show you the three guys that I want to talk about. So on this play, Moro Jomo and Jordan Davis. Jomo does a fantastic job fighting through the double team. And Davis also is very good at the point of attack, and the both of them end up making a key tackle. Then if you go to play two, I think we all know by now that Jalen Carter is not playing at Jalen Carter levels, and I think he's on the Boa injury report again with an injury again this week. So I think it's pretty clear that he is struggling. But as this game went on, right, early on, and I wrote about this for BGN, and I can't even remember the exact statistics. So go and read the BGN article if you care. But long story short, the run on, I think they were something like 3.6 yards per carry in the first half, then like 4.4 in the second half. The run defense went down. And I was watching it, and I said this on the post game with Eric. After the Denver's first touchdown, the Eagles went 3 and out. And you can blame the defense all you want, right? They played 74 snaps. Jalen Carter, who's clearly struggled with conditioning, Shane, clearly is not really healthy, in my opinion, fully healthy. I know we don't do PFF grades anymore, but his PFF grades are terrible compared to his previous years, which at least you can say there's some similarity because it's the same company grading him. He played 67 snaps. Like, he's only off the field 7 times. And you look at that, that was 43 pass rushing attempts. Like, that's a lot. Getting after the quarterback 43 times in a game. You look at other guys. Jordan Davis. We take for granted now that Jordan Davis can play with 50% of the snaps. He was a 20-30% player. He's playing 41 snaps. Jomo's playing 38. And when you look down the bottom, Byron Young is playing 15. And I'll show one final play for this one, which is play 5. And if you watch Byron Young on this play, nothing against Young. I'm sure he's got some talent in there, but he to me doesn't look good enough. And he is replacing Jordan Davis on this play. And no wonder they can't rest Davis very much because 60 man handles him. Like, that would never happen to Davis. Davis might get pushed back by a double. Single-handedly is not getting thrown to the ground like that. So I'm looking at the Eagles' defensive tackle rotation. I'm seeing Davis 41 snaps, Jomo 38, Carter 67. Where's Ty Robinson? 1. And last year, they didn't trust Jalen Hunt until about week 7 or week 8. Byron Young played 15 snaps, 9 run defense snaps. Jordan Davis this year, Shane, has already played 210 snaps. His highest snap count is 561. Last year, he only did 444. He is nearly halfway to his snap count from last year. Not playing particularly well, but I'm like, I can rotate those 5 around. I think defensive tackle might be a bigger issue than people think. And I thought fatigue was an issue in general this game, and I don't want to make excuses for everything this week on defense because we'll get into some of the negatives later on. But when I looked at the numbers, I was thinking that's a lot to ask. That's quite a lot to ask of someone like Jordan Davis to play that many snaps. Jalen Carter has played the fewest amount this year is 48. And I don't think he's been healthy, and I don't think his conditioning is great. Again, I'm not doing the whole PFF grades thing, Shane. You know I think it's been awful at times, but his PFF grades, Carter, 87, 73, and this year 59. Mm-hmm. It's the same company tracking him. I don't think that's purely down to fatigue. That's obviously down to health as well. But yeah, I think defensive tackles may be an issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I talked about that actually last night on Birds of the Round Table, that I think the move to make is for a defensive tackle because your edge rushers, I think, are fine. And to get an upgrade at edge rusher is going to be a Trey Hendrickson type guy that you're not going to want to move for. But there are a lot of defensive tackles that will give you a lot more than Byron Young that I think you could go get for a day 3 pick. So I'm with you. Same thing with CB, by the way. Like, you're going to have to pay a lot to really upgrade at CB. I think you can get an upgrade at D tackle for a 5th round pick, 4th round pick. And the Eagles have a ton of those. By the way, that stat was 3.6 yards per carry in the first half, 4.95 yards per carry in the second half. So, all right, let's keep rolling along. Maybe in the process, Johnny's internet's going to catch back up to us. I want to talk about...
Is it... Shane, Riverside Live might just not be me. I have upgraded. I checked before. My speed is now very fast. It seems to just hate it. I don't know what to say, man. Maybe live streams aren't for me. Join the Patreon. Nothing's live there at the moment. All recorded and hopefully fine. So sorry if I'm bugging out on the live. The upgrade has not failed. How dare you? If I can't do a podcast on... And yes, my download speed is worse in this room in the evening. If I can't run a podcast on like 150 download and 75 upload, then there's serious problems in the world. Yeah, good comment. Good comment. Apologies if you're there live. It will all be sorted in the recording.
Yes.
Ethernet, yeah, ask the wife about that, GG. Ain't happening, my friend. Not digging multiple holes through the wall to get into here. It's not happening. And by the way, on a serious note, rather than abuse from GGN, it's a K commenting, I think, regretting the Thomas Booker trade. Yeah, do you know what? I think there's an argument that we'd be better off with Booker than Bennett right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, it's more than an argument.
I don't
It's
know
a
what
fact.
he's doing. Yeah, I haven't looked at his numbers, but I think Booker had talent. And I'm also a little surprised. Who's the guy that was going to... Gabe Hall. If they're going to play Ty Robinson for one snap, I'm a little surprised Gabe Hall didn't hang around either. But there you go.
Yeah. All right. Let's hop into my second point. I just real quickly want to show two plays and talk about rush lane integrity. It's something we've talked about in the past last year. It's not something I've talked about this year, but I thought it showed up on a couple of Bo Nix scrambles. And Bo Nix is not a particularly mobile quarterback, but he can run a little bit if you give him the chance. And he ended up scrambling 3 times for 22 yards in this game. On this first play, you're going to get Jalix Hunt drops out of the edge, and so Jalen Carter is your new edge, which means he's got to keep Bo Nix in the pocket. And just watch the rush path that Jalen Carter takes. So he's starting out in the B gap. And see how wide he rushes? Like, that is way too wide. You simply can't do that, especially... I mean, I get what he's trying to do because you're bringing a nickel pressure off the other side and you don't want Nix to be able to escape the pocket. But you just make it so easy for him to escape the pocket up the middle there. And then he's making guys miss, juking Zach Bond and Jalix Hunt on the same play. It's rough rep there. On the next one that I was going to show, this time it's Moro Ojimo, who... I'm circling on the screen right here. I guess I said I was circling him and then drew an arrow. But watch how wide he goes on this rush. Again, lined up in the B gap. See how wide he gets? And he just, again, opens up this huge lane for Bo Nix to scramble through. And it's not as big of a scramble, but it still happens. And so I think that's something that's worth mentioning because it was a problem at times last season. And there was a period of the season where they just stopped running stunts for a while because they were losing contain too frequently when doing it. And this isn't a preview pod, but I think it's especially important to point out because, you know, Bo Nix averages 20 rushing yards a game. And so he just basically an average game against the Eagles as a runner. But they're about to play a guy in Jackson Dart who has no receivers, who is not a particularly good thrower of the football, but does average 55 yards a game on the ground. And so the Eagles are going to have to be disciplined as they rush the passer against Jackson Dart, and they see him in 2 of the next 3 games. So quick second point for me, but rush lane integrity is something the Eagles are going to have to clean up a little bit.
This week. Comment from who commented it? Good comment. Breaded Lips. Yeah, I think Bourne may have played his worst game. Yeah, I don't think he was terrible by any means, but for his high standards, definitely. I want to talk about one that doesn't have film clips actually, because there's not really a specific play I want to show. It sort of links to my first point really about defensive tackle depth, which is pass rush. I do not think it's a coincidence, Shane, that when you think of the Eagles' best pass rushes in this game, what do you think of? Off the top of your head, when you think of the Eagles rushing the quarterback the last 2 weeks, what pops straight into your head?
You kind of cut out there, but you're asking...
What's great about bad internet is I can ask you a question, I can ask you a question and not hear the answer, which is even better podcasting, isn't it? What I said was, whether you heard it is, for me, it's twist and stunts and it's rushing 5. When you think of what Fangio wants to do, it's not rushing 5. I counted 4 really good individual pass rush reps in this game. One was Cooper DeJean, one was Zach Bourne, and the other 2 were edge rushes. There was one from Uche and one from Azeez Ojulari, and that is it. And as the game went on, you can link this to fatigue slightly. I think the Eagles tired, and their pass rush in general, like Zadarius Smith had one on a stunt, but he's not winning individually huge amounts. Jalix Hunt isn't winning really at all, if we're being brutally honest, one-on-one as a pass rusher. Josh Uche and Aziz Ojolari were the only two that had decent reps this week. And I think you are seeing Fangio get frustrated because he very rarely, I think, wants to rush five. And he's getting really creative in a cool way. In some ways, it's great for film because there's quite a few things we could show. But I think just in general, what does Fangio want to do? Go back to the Super Bowl last year. We talk about all the time with Fangio. He wants to rush four because you get 7 in coverage. You get 7 in coverage, and there's so much more you can do from a coverage point of view. So I think it's worth watching this week. You mentioned the preview. I'm going to get to it after this for the Giants. He will run a lot dart. If there's any questionable sort of run fits, he will be gone early. A lot of his plays are read one and go. So if the Eagles don't rush the QB well enough and they don't contain well enough, I think they'll be in trouble. I'm going to give myself a shout out. One of my favourite things, which I like to do, is one of my favourite comments actually the last couple of years, which I think is true, and I should use that fancy new tool that everyone's using to look at the numbers rather than just say what I think. I think when we face a mobile quarterback, Fangio's really good at rush lane integrity. I think when we play the middling guys, the Bakers, I will count the Jackson Darters, the Bo Nix of the world, the Patrick Mahomes to an extent, I think he's less worried about rush lane integrity, and it feels like some of those guys would have big games against us running the football. So I feel like if we were playing a Lamar Jackson, Fangio would be really on it. But I feel like when we're playing this middle of the pack mobile QB, because there's barely anyone immobile anymore, all QBs can run. And I almost don't think it's one area of Fangio's defense I disagree with him a little bit on. So I'll combine sort of our 2 points into one there. Really. Like coverage sacks at the moment either.
All right. I will go on to my third point then. And I want to talk about the Eagles defending condensed runs. Because condensed runs were a large part of that yards per carry differential in the second half. The Broncos started to get condensed, and they started to get the edge on the Eagles. And we saw the Rams do the same thing. And being condensed makes it really hard for like your nickel to set the edge, because he also has to be able to defend outbreaking routes against that condensed guy, but he's also got to be able to defend crossers, because a lot of times you'll condense to run crossers, and so it's really hard to be able to take away the crosser from under center play action in condensed formations and also still get outside of that guy to set the edge in the run game, which is why, you know, a lot of under center teams go condensed, and it's almost as if the Eagles offensively were like, hey, condensed is good, but we don't do any of the things that make it work. But that's a whole separate thing. But I just have a couple clips here of condensed runs, and you can sort of see what I'm talking about. But multiple times, they were able to get the edge on the Eagles, running toss plays, getting outside from condensed looks. And I mean, that's not a huge gain, but it's an easy first down on 2nd and 3. This time you get the motion coming with you, and you're going to get a lane to cut this upfield. That's a 7-8 yard run on 2nd and 10. So that's a big run. I mean, it gets you from, you stop that, you can pin your ears back and rush the passer, to now it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. And then this one's actually from pistol, and it was a little misdirection. And thankfully, Cooper DeJean is able to like fight through this and get upfield, because just imagine DeJean wasn't able to fight through this. Like, this might be a touchdown. And so it's a really good play by DeJean to get out there and slow him down and force him to get outside, but you still give up yardage. And condensed runs, and these are the same plays, just looping again, but condensed runs were a big issue against the Rams, who are very good at it, by the way. And it reared its head again in the second half against the Broncos. And I think it's something that smart teams are going to look at, and it's going to give the Eagles trouble throughout the year. And you know that the Lions run a lot of condensed things. The Packers will do that. Like, there's some very good teams in the NFC that this is a big portion of their identity. And we've seen the Eagles struggle against it twice in the last 3 weeks. I'm just waiting for Jonny to realize that I finished talking. His internet will get there in a minute or two, maybe.
Sorry, at that point I could hear you, and think I was about a second behind. Genuine scheme question, which is really hard to answer.
Okay, there goes Jonny. We'll have to get him back to find out what that scheme question is. Anyways, apologies for the live viewers here. Those of you listening back later shouldn't experience these audio issues. But yeah, it's unfortunate that that was my last point on the defense too, because now I've just got to wait on Jonny to get back in. I don't have anything else to talk about. Yeah, Jonny just totally not showing up for the second half of the podcast. Kind of like the Eagles offense. It would be ironic. You could almost call it artistic if he just disappears for the second half of this show about the offense. I will give him just a minute here, and then I'm going to roll on to the offensive side of the ball if he doesn't pop back in. But anyways, those are a few of the things that I kind of noticed in the game. Overall, I thought the defense played fine. I mean, it's frustrating to give up those scoring drives, to give up a 14-point lead in the second half of a game, but a lot of it, I think, comes down to the offense continually putting you in difficult circumstances. And I do think the Broncos are a decent team. I thought Bo Nix had some misfires in this game. I don't generally think he's like a great quarterback, but he's a startable quarterback. And their pass rush is good. Their run game is good. And so I don't think they're just some bad team that the Eagles lost to. I think they're a solid team. And I get frustrations with the defense, but I put a lot more of that onto the offense. Brett Eclipse asked, what adjustments do you think the Eagles could make to address the outside toss issues versus condensed? That's a good question. I think that's just really hard to do and still be able to cover crossing routes. That's a question I'd have to think about and come up with some more stuff on. But it's definitely something they're going to have to figure out because, there's probably some zone exchange rules you can put into play to pick up those crossers and things like that without having to chase them. But it does put you in a tough predicament. Jonny, are you back?
Yeah, that was my question before I vanished. I was actually showing a tech genius there because I could have come straight back in, but I needed Riverside to upload, so it didn't delete the podcast element. So you see, I'm actually a tech wizard. You may think the opposite. I don't know if you heard
do
my question,
appreciate that.
But I asked the same thing because I watched it quite closely this week. Did you hear my take about Puka Nacua and the Rams? Did I get there?
No.
No, so what I was saying was I was wondering why that was. I was saying against the Rams, I think it was easy to diagnose why they struggled on the edge because I think the Rams are like unbelievably good because of Puka Nacua, basically, was my point. A little bit confused as to why they were so poor this week at times. And I can't decide if it's the edge defenders. I can't decide if it's linebackers. I can't decide if it's Cooper DeJean. I can't decide if it's corners. It always feels like it's one, like it doesn't feel like an obvious fix. But it's something they've got to get better at. I don't just think it's from condensed either. I think it's just getting outside of them in general. But I think it's fair for you to point out that condensed is the other issue. Right, I have lost Shane in true story because I quit and joined my final point. So hopefully you can still see my chat, and this is great podcasting again. Remind me what the hell I was going to talk about third. I know what it is. It's going to really annoy everyone if I've not annoyed everyone already. I'm going to talk about Broncos being good because a little pet peeve of mine. I got killed in the BGN comments this week, Shane. Oh my god, I got wrecked on my offensive preview for loving Sean Payton. He's obviously not a particularly nice coach, but I was watching their offense and I was just like, it's so well coached. I've watched some really good offensive minds this year for the previews, and every week I get more sad because I watch them and I think we don't do any of like this cool stuff that other teams do. So just a couple of plays, and you might think, why am I showing Broncos being good? But I want to mention that like part of being a defense and why I'm a little bit less worried about the defense than some is that sometimes you just get beat by really good play calls and individual plays that it's very hard for Fangio or whatever to fix. So a couple of ones that stood out. Play 6 is my favourite call of the game by a mile on my film thread. Like, what do we know the Eagles run? A lot of quarter, half, cover 6 or whatever. Peyton's obviously studied this. He knows they might get cover 6. So he runs the absolute dream cover 6 beater. Like a post, and it's almost like a post wheel, but I guess it's like a leak from a tight end, but it almost plays out like post wheel. And it's just perfect because you know that Blankenship's going to get done by the post. You know that eventually the Titans going to creep out. And I actually think both Ringo and Bourne do reasonably well here. I know they don't end up making the tackle. I think Bourne in particular, he does something really clever. If you watch him, I think Bourne is so aware. When the guy runs past him, he knows he's in huge trouble here. And he just ever so slightly gives him a little grab. But there are some things they did schematically that I think was really, really good at times against the Eagles. And then there was play 13. And I saw Quinton Mitchell coming in for a little bit of criticism, which again, I think is mad. Cortland Sutton's huge. He's a very, very good receiver. And sometimes when a QB gets hot and a receiver starts clicking, they do things like this. And he's in about as good position as you can do. That's nearly impossible to stop. Like, I don't want to be defeatist and say the Eagles defense just got bad because the Broncos got good, but I think you have to tip your cap. And I watched the Broncos a lot for the preview. I don't think Bo Nix is as bad as people think. I think he's just inconsistent, by the way. I think actually he's pretty talented when he gets going and gets in the rhythm. I think they're a really good offense. And I think in hindsight, by maybe look back at this game and think that actually defense, they did nowhere near as bad as people were saying. I think they were doing much, much better for 3 quarters. And I think blaming the defense for this game, which is sort of why I want to bring up better than people think. And I think when they get going, I think Sean Payton knows what he's doing. And I think it's almost more credit to the Eagles that they just completely shut them out for 3 whole quarters. And they only really started losing when the offense just started giving them nothing from the other side of the field. So overall, I'm any sort of panic button on the defense. Did the defense, and this year they're not. And that happens when you lose Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, and Darius Slay in the same offseason. It's going to happen to any team. Milton Williams, like, leads the league in tackles in pressures, and Josh Sweat's also been awesome. It's going to have a knock-on impact. If anything, I think the defense has done pretty well so far to sustain some of those losses personally.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to wrap it up for the defensive side of the ball. So we will throw it over to the offense now, and we'll give our top. We do have to. Sorry, Johnny.
Do you want to just do, like, can we get a special teams expert in? Any special teams experts around?
Well, there's a
pretty about special teams.
There's a pretty good chance that your Wi-Fi will drop you in 5 minutes anyways, so it'll just be me. So
that'd be helpful, actually. I might just switch it off instead. You can do the offense for half an hour.
I thought maybe you were just doing a bit where you were going to no-show the offensive part, like the offense no-showed the second half, but not to give you any ideas there.
No, if it goes now, I'm not joining back in, so it's all good. It's on you. Can I start with offense this week? Because there was, I'm not even going to call out the person on Twitter because, to be honest, I don't follow him. I don't know who it is. But Eric had a bit of a, as Eric likes to fire a few more shots than we do on Twitter. And basically, I called this point, just do what works. Or I can't remember exactly what I put in the chat with you. Do what works more. Let's just say that. Do what works more. So you all know what I'm going to say because you've all seen the clip and you all have read the same articles as me and listened to the same podcast. The Eagles ran a toss play in this game. It was play 2, I believe. And I'm only going to break down the way the toss works. It's very simple. It's 12 personnel. They run a toss. Jurgens gets on the move. Steen gets on the move. Malata gets on the move. It's a really nice run at 17 yards. Okay. A couple of plays later, play 3 on the film thread.
It's actually the very next play.
Was it the very next play? Even better. And by the way, they did fake one more toss later on in the game. It didn't work. But anyway, they fake a toss to the left. Same play. They throw it to the right. Simple. After that run, Saquon Barkley ran split zone, 4 yards, inside zone, 4 yards, outside zone from pistol for 2 yards, and an under center outside zone run for 0 yards. And Brett is posting the clip, or the tweet, the quote, that I wanted to moan about, where Jeff McLean, fair play to him, asked Kevin Patullo why he never went back to that. And I think it's just a pathetic answer. And I don't like to criticize coaches, but I don't like his press conferences. I don't like the vibe of them. There's a lot of, like, excuses. When Fangio, I feel like the defense is bad, he's like, yeah, we're not good enough. So he said it was a situational play that we got to in the moment. I'm thinking, well, sorry. What situation? It wasn't like end of half. We're not talking like a flea flicker on 3rd and 13. We're talking an early down run from 12 personnel. And it's kind of the way it worked out with the personnel we were in, and it kind of just fit like that. I'm sorry. Again, you weren't in 13 personnel. You're in 12. You won 12 personnel all the time. It is a very standard shotgun, same side, outside toss zone. And this led to the argument on Twitter where someone quote tweeted Eric saying, like, lol, these Madden guys just want you to run the same play. I'm like, how many plays do you think there are in the NFL? There's like, most teams will run like 7 running plays. What you do is you do the exact same thing. You do it with emotion next time. You then do it from a different maybe formation. You then put the receivers on different sides. You maybe dress it up. You start an empty. You motion too tight end. There are loads of ways you can run out. It's just outside zone with a toss. That's all it is. But the point is that it worked. And when you get something that works, that makes offense easy. Because Patullo constantly moans that they can't get things going, which is why you can't sequence stuff, which is true. He's not lying. If all your first down play calls are crap, you're going to struggle to sequence stuff because you don't have anything to build off. So when you have the longest run of the season, I would add, how the pressing's at 17 yards from Saquon Barkley, the fact that you wouldn't even try it again is completely beyond me. The fact you wouldn't try and run it the other side. There are so many ways you can dress up outside zone toss. To act like it was only because of the personnel we were in, it was a situational play. If someone wants to explain what the situation was, and I wish they'd pressed more on that. So, sorry, what situation? We're not talking 2-minute drill. Like end of half, it was like whenever it was first quarter at the start. I can't remember if it was first or second down, but it was a very normal down and distance. I think it was a pathetic quote, and I think it's a laughable excuse in many ways. And I think basically, as an Eagles offense, I go back and forth between they do too much or they don't do enough. And I'm actually going to start leaning on the fact that maybe they should just do run their bread and butter plays more and slowly build off it. So when you have a run play that works, stick to it at least a few more times. Doesn't mean you have to run it in the exact same down and distance from the exact same formation. But it's really like, not ignorant, but it's sort of, it treats people as stupid. I think fans are stupid when you come out and just go, it was a certain I'm like, it's just a rubbish excuse. Just be honest and say you didn't call it again. Like, let's be honest about it. You probably saw it work, ticked it off, wanted to get into it. Just say you wanted to do other things. You didn't think it would work again. Say, and by the way, you can be honest and say the Broncos fronts were changing. The Broncos left their edge defender wider to stop it. Like, you can say things. We're not all idiots. Don't just say it was a specific situational thing, because it sort of belittles us as fans that we're that thick, that we don't realise that you can't just run the same play every time. But yeah, that quote annoyed me. I don't know if you felt the same, but it was a little bit of like, I know more than you and you don't know about the situations we do. And I was like, get out of there.
Well, some of us are that thick because we think you can't call a toss play twice in the same game without it being...
Yeah, you can't. You have to run a different run play every time, Shane. For inside zone, outside zone, trap, wham, crunch, duo, outside zone toss, then hit counter, then counter bash, then QB draw. And that's why the Eagles can't run more than 11 runs in a game, Shane, because if you didn't hear, you run the same run. You have to run a different run every time. Yeah. You can't run the same play more than once. Someone better tell Shanahan and McVay.
I know.
Because Shanahan's been running a lot of outside zone. Someone better tell him that he can't run it more than once.
Well, I said this in the Discord, but Sean McVay talks all the time about the illusion of complexity, which is basically that he runs like 5 plays over and over from different formations and alignments and different window dressing before, but it's the same thing. And that's his quarterback can read the same thing over and over. The defense just doesn't know what's coming. The Eagles have like gone the other direction. We'll be simple and also not try to make it look complex. But I digress.
In fact, I'm looking now. They only ran like 7 runs, but only one of them was the same. They ran split zone twice from shotgun 11 personnel. That was it. Every run was different. Different personnel, different run. That's just madness. But anyway.
All right. Well, let me go to my first point, and I'm going to go out of the order I sent you, but I want to tell you how you lose a game from 2nd and 1. And so late in the game, the Eagles trail by 1. They get 9 yards on first down off of a little RPO, which I'm going to get to RPOs in a minute. They get to a 2nd and 1, and they run another RPO. And they're going to get an illegal man down penalty on Tyler Steen, number 56 here, the right guard. The broadcast tried to excuse Tyler Steen on this. This is not excusable. He knows it's an RPO. He knows that with an RPO, you cannot go more than a yard downfield without engaging someone because there's a chance of a pass. This isn't like Jalen Hurts fumbled the handoff and then picked it up and threw it. This is in the rhythm and timing that you would practice this play. And just watch Steen immediately go to the second level. Like, just combo block with Lane Johnson and drive that guy to the linebacker that you want to block. But he just runs straight there. And so what should have been a first down is penalized. You get to 2nd and 6. Okay, mistakes happen. This has been a mistake for the Eagles for a long time, but mistakes happen. Okay, so we are 2nd and 6. The Eagles go under center for the first and only play of the game to do what they only do from under center is run the ball. So everybody knows this is a run play. And Jonny, if you got this front and you wanted to run to the right side, left of screen, but right side for the offense.
Yeah, it's easy.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
ways you could do this. One would be you could pin down with Tyler Steen. You could give Lane Johnson this block, and you could sort of block it up like this, and you get Cam Jurgens pulling through the C gap as a lead blocker. So you could try that. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe Jurgens' mobility is an issue. Whatever, it's not, but maybe it was. Well, how about we could double team this defensive tackle, and we could sort of double team here, and we could run duo, and we could duo to the second level to these linebackers. Or we could ask our center, who is excellent in space but struggles against bigger guys, to reach block this defensive tackle to get to play side. And he could get totally blown off of the ball and blow it up completely. Like, if you want to run from under center and just be predictable, you could call a better play based on that front. And so then you get to...
Do you think there's some... Sorry, do you think there's some arrogance in, like... I've never really thought about this, but maybe they think the offensive line's better than it is? I'm not blaming Stoutland here. Maybe they've almost drawn up, like... I'm speaking aloud. I'm literally thinking this while watching that clip. Do you think there's, like, an idea that they're calling plays and they're designing plays as if their offensive line's still elite? Almost makes you wonder, like... I know it sounds really stupid. So let's say Jurgens wasn't out there, and whoever their backup center would be, Drew Kendall. I wonder if they'd give him an easier block and it would almost benefit the offense. Obviously, I'm not saying I want Jurgens to not play, but you get what I'm saying? I almost wonder if, like, they're calling plays like they've still got this elite offensive line, and they don't. I'm just wondering. So spitballing an idea on the pod, but as I'm watching that, I'm thinking, that's a tough block to ask Jurgens to make. If Jurgens is a fifth-round rookie, are they asking him to do that, or are they simplifying things? We talk about simplifying things at every other position on the pitch, don't we? We talk about simplifying things for everyone. If you've got a young player not playing very well, simplify it. Doesn't feel like they're helping the offensive line. I think the run scheme design and everything is way more of a problem than individuals on the line this year. The amount of time, Shane, in this game, when they ran the ball, the Broncos were just charging down the field because they have zero respect for play action from this Neo line.
Yeah, it's certainly a possibility. And in this situation, it's just a throwaway play. Like, you could have reasonably run for a first down if you just blocked it in a way that made sense, but you didn't. And so you get to 3rd and 6. And now the Broncos do what every team should do every play against the Eagles, which is just line 7 guys up, 6 guys, 7 guys up across the line of scrimmage and drop 3 of them out into coverage. The Eagles are going to keep their tight end and a wide receiver into block, or to chip block, because they condensed them for no reason to make it really easy to disguise where pressure is coming from. And they're just going to get blown off of the ball. So this is 2 chip blocks against a 4-man rush, or excuse me, a 5-man rush. And there's a guy untouched to Jalen Hurts. And so you've got to get the ball out fast. And then we get to 4th and 4, where you call up a good design. You're going to motion the running back out. You realize we're in man coverage. We're going to take our shot down the sideline because they're sitting in the slant windows you've been throwing all game against these looks, and Devontae Smith executes it for a huge 4th and 4 conversion, except there's a penalty. And you know why there's a penalty? Because you got to the line with 11 seconds on the play clock, and your receiver didn't get fully set before you sent Saquon Barkley into motion, and then he couldn't get set, and it's all procedural. So get your plays in faster, call better plays, and stop making easy flags on these illegal men downfields. And I know there hasn't been a lot of them, but this was just a great example in a 4-play sequence of the Eagles shooting themselves in the foot multiple times. Avoidable penalty, predictable run with terrible blocking scheme, going condensed for no reason and allowing yourself to give up a pressure, and then running a great play with a procedural penalty. And that kind of sums up the Eagles offense in this game.
Yeah, man. Whatever we said all year, small stuff, minor details, sweat the small stuff on every play. That Tyler Steen rep on the RPO outside zone, or whenever he got to the second level, it's the exact opposite of that. That's not caring about the minute detail level. They're not sweating the small stuff. And Brother Clips mentioning about Dennis Selsman graphic where the Eagles are late to snap the ball. Yeah, it's sort of crazy. Again, it screams a little bit of like arrogance to me that like the way we do it's fine. We don't need to change, which I think is sort of laughable. Shane, I think neither of us, by the way, this week are even going to talk Jalen Hurts on the passing game. So if those of you wanting to hear us like slate 2x2 and the way they can't beat zone, I don't know what else to tell everyone that I haven't said the past 4 weeks. They don't know how to beat zone. Their concepts aren't good enough. I don't think it's a Hurts issue. I actually put these numbers in the Patreon Discord yesterday, which you should be following, of course, or subscribing if you're not. You can get into the Discord, and I just simply posted Jalen Hurts like EPA versus zone, and it's by far the worst year ever, like by a significant distance. His last 4 years has averaged 0.2 EPA per play, 0.092, 0.131. This year, negative 181. Like, it's just significantly his worst. So you can talk about, is it Hurts? Is it the scheme? Well, Hurts has been better against zone for 3 straight years. So I'm going to argue that it's the scheme that has made a bigger difference because the receivers are still the same and Saquon Barkley's still there. I wanted to talk about the AJ Brown play. So should we just get into it? Should we talk effort?
Sure.
I don't even know where it is on my film, but it'll be somewhere there. You'll see it towards the bottom, won't you? I have a bit of a different take maybe to some, and I'm actually not going to blame AJ Brown, which may annoy people. And I know if there's GGN, who's the one in our Discord? One of us is killing, I don't know if it's GGN or someone else is just killing AJ Brown 24/7 in the Discord. And I get it. I do understand it. So my problem is, Shane, every receiver in the Eagles doesn't run plays hard when they're not getting the ball. First third down of the game, AJ Brown jogged a deep route. Dallas Goedert jogged about 4 routes in this play, and I'm not kidding. No, sorry, I'm not in this play in this game. Dallas Goedert was, I think, the biggest issue. AJ Brown, every time, did you know, Shane, when he was in motion opposite the RPO flat, he literally walked out. Like, he walked there. And the reason why I'm going to blame the coaches is because they have let this happen. So what actually happens on this play, everyone's already seen it by now, but AJ Brown is running like a deep route, and he gets redirected, and it's very, very unlikely. Of course, the Eagles go empty and nearly have the best play of the game, of course, or one of the best plays. But this is almost impossible for a QB to throw this look from empty, this kind of route. It's mainly a clear out route. But the Broncos, which AJ Brown probably doesn't know, only rush 8. So Hurts actually thinks, only rush 3, obviously, drop 8. Hurts actually has time to sit in the pocket. So the reason why I'm blaming the Eagles coaching staff is because they have let this culture exist on the offense. They have let receivers do this. They have let this become a bigger issue. And it's now, I think it might be like a systemic problem with the offense. It's been there since week 1. The very first week of film, Shane, we went, they're jogging deep routes. There was one a couple of weeks ago, wasn't there, where Hurts nearly got picked. Well, I think it was Devontae Smith who didn't, or maybe it was Dotson, who didn't stretch the field vertically enough. And then Devontae Smith was running a deep out, and it was nearly intercepted. And Goddard was jogging, if you remember, to the flat on a 3-level stretch play. This is the first play of the game, which I know you could talk about with Goddard jogging as well. It actually isn't my least favourite Goddard play of the game. My least favourite Goddard play is actually a little bit later on as well. But it's become now, I mean, look at AJ Brown, just once again on this play, Shane. Yes, he's got Pat Satan on him, but he's jogging. Like, he knows he's not getting the ball. Your job is still to carry that safety, to try and get him as far away as possible. You don't know what coverage they're in. You have to run. And it's now become a cultural thing. And when things become habits in any form of life, they're hard to get rid of. And I think the Eagles are going to have to really knuckle down on this. Like, really knuckle down. And if that means people don't play series, and we all go, where the hell's Dallas Goedert this week? Because the coaches have pulled him for a drive. I think it's going to have to be a real thing, because I want to blame AJ Brown on that play, and I want to say he's being lazy, but I actually don't think he's doing that much different than what anyone else is doing on this offense. And I think because it's AJ Brown, and because the ball is thrown, and because it should have been a deep catch, it looks far, far worse. But the reality is that this is something that has been a very common theme of this Eagles offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can blame AJ Brown. Like, you're the guy that's talking about being frustrated by targets. Here's a 61-yard touchdown that wins the football game for you. Go run your route. And it's not just A.J. Brown. I've pointed out Dallas Goedert with that. I've pointed out Devontae Smith with that. Less so with Smith, but it's there at times. And I think there's sometimes it's okay. Like, there was one somebody asked me about. It was the deep ball to Jahan Dotson in this game. Devontae Smith is in the slot, and he just kind of jogs out a route. I was like, well, you're not ever coached to do that, but it's single high man coverage, and really you're just reading that middle of field safety and throwing to whichever double move he doesn't slant towards, and he goes towards AJ Brown. So like that one, whatever. He's not clearing anybody out. It's kind of whatever, I guess. I don't love it, but it doesn't really impact the play. But when you jog these clear out routes, or you just jog a route like that first third down of the game that we talked about, AJ Brown doesn't run, and so the safety doesn't have to drive off to open up the underneath crossing route. And then Dallas Goedert just jogs, and he's the only guy with one-on-one coverage. And it's pervasive, and it's a major problem, like you talked about.
Can you remember Jordan Matthews that we used to take the mick out of? What did he do every rep in training camp? What did every reporter said he did?
He's finishing the end
after
zone.
every play. Yeah, sprints to the end zone. I joke about it, but things like this become habits. They become routines. And the Eagles' offense now has a bad habit of not playing every play hard. And it's actually going to be quite hard to get rid of because it's not one person. When things become cultural about a team, it can take a lot to get rid of it because players have settled in now. Players are getting well paid, and people like Dallas Goedert know there's no one that can replace him. So to an extent, if I don't think I'm getting it, who cares? And maybe the Eagles need to shake things up a little bit. Maybe they do need to throw some of these clear out routes just to get people running hard. Maybe, Shane, that AJ Brown one is so bad, it's the catalyst. Maybe that is the one. All the team look at that and think, yeah, actually, we could always get that ball. So maybe we will see it differently tomorrow.
And
right, finish us up.
And Sirianni is supposed to be a culture guy.
Not deserve it.
Yeah, and Sirianni is supposed to be a culture guy, so this has to be better. Okay, my last 2 points are real simple. I'm just going to run these in the background so you guys know what we're talking about. But the Eagles brought the RPOs back in this game. The little RPO flat routes, they got there a lot of different ways. These scrape routes behind the formation, slant flat, different things like that. But in this game, Jalen Hurts threw 8 passes off of RPOs. And on those 8 passes, he was 6 of 8 for 52 yards and a touchdown with 0.173 EPA per dropback, a 62.5% success rate. On the 37 dropbacks that did not feature an RPO, he was 17 of 30 for 228 yards and a touchdown. He took 6 sacks, negative 0.247 EPA per dropback, and a 35% success rate. And so again, so much of the Eagles' success in this game off of RPOs and a couple big passes, but down in and down out, their traditional drop back passing game, just not good enough. And so I was glad to see the RPOs back because it's an important feature of their offense and it certainly has its uses, but they've got to figure out the rest of it as well. So really quick point there for me. Do you want me to go ahead and do my last one as well?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Okay, on my last one, I want to talk about how the Eagles are handling pass protection. Jonny, how many... Well, I'll do my thing first. Never mind. So on this first play, the Eagles... I'll ask you the question later. So the Eagles are going to... They get the motion here that tells you this is man coverage, and they're going to run like a little concept here that's designed to free up A.J. Brown. So you sort of run the flat with the slant, and you're trying to get A.J. Brown inside off of man coverage. And then you've got Devontae Smith running the corner route. Here's the problem. Dallas Goedert blocks, Saquon Barkley blocks. You know it's man coverage. That means there's 2 bodies in the middle of the field looking for work, which is where you're running your primary into all these extra bodies by design. You just and then it's even worse that the Broncos only rush 3, so you max protected against a 3-man rush. And then here's another one where you're going to keep the running back in to block, and the Broncos only rush 4. They bail 2 guys off of the line, and despite that, Saquon Barkley still stays in to block. He's not reading anybody. He's just kind of standing.
He needs to get at quicker. He needs to get at. Again, coaching. You can run. Yeah, you can tell running backs to block, and then if their guy gets into coverage, get out into a route. You don't need Barkley there. He's completely wasted. You're basically down with 10 men on that play. It's a really good one to call out.
Yeah, and then on this last one, you're going to have the running back block. You're going to have the tight end chip block. And by the way, watch Dallas Goedert get out on this route with a lot of urgency after he chip blocks. But it's only a 4-man rush again, right? So Saquon's in to block. Watch how awful this route is from Goedert. And you get sacked with a 4-man rush when you blocked 6 and you chipped. There were 37 non-RPO dropbacks in this game. A running back stayed in to block on 14 of them, and a tight end stayed in to block on 7 of them. So 50% of non-RPO dropbacks had an extra blocker. This season, the Eagles have kept Saquon Barkley in to block on 53 snaps. Last year, how many snaps do you think they kept Saquon in to block, Johnny, in the whole season?
That's a good question. Oh, then maybe even less. I don't think he blocked very much at all because Shipley played up. No, not Shipley Gainwell. 44.
It was actually just a little more. It was 63. So he has 10 snaps.
That's
so 10,
still mad.
Yeah, from 3.9 snaps per game as a blocker last year to 10.6 snaps as a game as a blocker. And some of that is the Shipley factor for sure. But Dennis Selman put out the stats 2024 to 2025. Last year, the Eagles had 5 guys out on routes on 73% of their pass plays. Yep. This year, it's only at 58%. And so it's hard to stress zone coverage when other teams have to cover one or two less guys.
Exactly. Do the maths. If you're putting someone to block 50% of the time and you're only releasing 3 or 4 defenders, how are you going to put a zone in conflict? Don't have the bodies. You don't have the numbers to do it. Surely they go empty more tomorrow and we see some more stuff against zone. But who knows? Right, do you know what? I'm going to scrap my last point because I'm going to do something else because I actually want to touch on your RPO points. I think the RPO point was really big this week. I think it was actually, despite the fact the offense was annoying, it's a big thing we should talk about because it was a very offense compared to the last couple of years. I was going to talk about destroying single high man coverage, but I feel like everyone by now knows the Eagles destroy single high man coverage. Do I need to show Saquon Barkley beating Alex Singleton? Probably not. So I want to look at play 6 on my film, Fred Shane. This is a really niche point, and it's going to annoy. If you're not really into like the schematic weeds, then this point's probably going to bore the hell out of you. This play really annoyed me, and you're going to watch this and think, "What the hell are you on about? Why would this play annoy you so much?" Because if you just roll the play, it's a standard inside zone run. Dickerson ends up falling down, but all it's fine. Standard run. Actually, quite a successful run. I think it might have been 4 yards or something, which based on the Eagles these days is like a great run. The reason why this play really annoyed me is, and I think we talk about this all the time, anyone can call inside zone, anyone can call RPO bubble screen, like whatever. The way you design offense, and I'm going to say the same thing, you have to sweat the really small stuff. So to me, what's the benefit of a shotgun run game, Shane? The number one.
That the QB can keep the ball, and there's also pass options.
Now, look at the 2 edge defenders on this play. The whole idea of having a mobile quarterback is your QB can take one of them out. You get +1 in the run game. Both their edge defenders are being blocked. Jalen Hurts, where they're blocking, he is not reading. He looks like he's reading him, but it's a fake read. He's handing this ball left every time. He looks like he might be going out to the left, but he's not actually reading the guy. They're not telling everyone to leave him unblocked. Remember the great Micah Parsons games when the Eagles wrecked him? What did they do? They just didn't block him. Basically just said you can never be right. And then the worst thing about this play in the world is they're running an RPO bubble screen. Supposedly they are. Look at the way that Jalen Hurts hands the ball off. And it's so obvious, right? But if I can see this, any defensive coordinator can see this as well. He's literally facing the wrong way. So if you go back to the very start of the play, before we even run the play, look where Barkley is and look where Hurts is. I now tell my defenders, the second you see the 3 receivers the other side, you basically can charge downhill instantly. Because the Broncos could have 1 cornerback out in the flat, Shane. They can never throw this ball. Jalen Hurts doesn't look at Devontae Smith once. He will never, ever throw this bubble screen. I actually think they've got decent numbers out there. I think he could throw it. I think you can make it. It's laughable, isn't it, how bad it is? Like, from an offensive design point of view. There is no way in hell he could ever throw this ball. Are you laughing at Dickerson?
Yeah, I was just laughing at the fact that if he did throw it, I think that Dickerson is an illegal man downfield because he fell further than 1 yard downfield. Look at this.
Look at 23 or 20, the guy behind 0, right? Look at him come down against the run.
Yeah.
Look at the guy, see the nickel guy who should be on Devontae Smith, right? Look at him. Look at him come downhill against the run. This guy here. Yep. Ends up making a tackle. Why is he so far inside? Look where Devontae Smith is, the guy he's supposed to be covering on this play. It's like 7, 8 yards away. Because he doesn't actually have to worry about. He doesn't even look at Devontae Smith. He knows. It's so obvious that I can see this. How they design offense. And I'm also going to make a tiny psychological point here, Shane, as well. Remember we said about habits. You block hard every play. You run hard every play. Do you know what happens when you call plays where guys have no chance of getting the ball? They just jog it out. Look at AJ Brown's blocking attempt here. But do you know what? Am I going to blame AJ Brown for not blocking hard on this play? Why the hell would he? He basically knows there is no chance in hell this ball can ever go to Devontae Smith, because the second you see where they're lined up pre-snap. So if you're going to now start running shotgun RPOs, what do you need to do? Well, firstly, you need to actually ignore an edge defender. Just don't block him. Physically, don't block him. If he crashes down, you keep it. If he looks at you, you hand it off. Don't block the guy. And secondly, when you run this play, you need to make sure that you are looking, which sounds so obvious, but I can't believe I'm even saying this, but I watched this play and I was like, there's no chance of you being able to throw this. And guess what happens, Shane? If you do throw the bubble screen early on, and this is my final point because we're going over an hour, we said we wouldn't. But if you throw the bubble screen earlier on and Devontae Smith only gets 3 yards, why is that still a good play? Because the guy who tackles Barkley there is not in that position. He is closer towards Devontae Smith. And that's what all comes back to sequencing. It all comes back to the details of offensive design. The Eagles don't prioritize the small stuff. They don't sweat the really minutiae details. And I think it all goes back to culturally, their plan is, we're better than you, therefore we're going to win off vibes. And I think a lot of the Eagles' offense the past few years has been, we don't need to sweat the small stuff because we're simply going to beat you by being better than you. And I think it's caught up to them. So really minor point, really niche point to end with on the show. But the more you look at that play, the more you think it summarizes why they're struggling, because it's incredibly obvious that play is not been thought out properly, in my opinion anyway.
Well, you see, Jonny, that was actually a situational play that they got into in the moment. And so kind of the way it worked out,
Yes.
the personnel they were in, and it just kind of fit like that. So, all right.
Yeah, sorry, Petito. You're right. I'll stay in my lane.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of On the Shane Page. Thank you guys for tuning in. Apologies for Jonny's awful internet again. It'll be fixed on the recording that goes into Patreon. It'll be fixed for the audio.
So, Shane, do you want to know a secret? When I stood up, I did actually, because I have a nice little soundproof room here. I'm wondering if I was blocking the signals, whether that's a thing. IT guys can laugh at me. So I've opened the door, and it hasn't froze, I don't think, since I stood up. So maybe I've just been blocking the signal by soundproofing myself in this room.
I can literally send you the screenshot from Discord after last episode when we told you that, but I digress.
So maybe that was one of the reasons. But although I'm saying this, Shane, I've recorded about 500 times on the other platform with the door shut without a problem. So I'm still blaming Riverside, not my stupidity. But let's get out of there. We're too long already. Sorry, T, you definitely got it too late. We're an hour in. We're not doing any more. Offense doesn't deserve any more tapes from us.
All right. Well, that is going to do it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Like I said, it'll be up on audio platforms with a little better audio in the next hour or so, and it'll be dropping into Patreon with the video as well. If you want some more content, I did 42 minutes on the Eagles pass game in the Patreon. Eric is working on a player spotlight for Cam Jurgens. Jonny is working on a preview after this. There's going to be a lot of stuff dropping in there, so come check that out.
Within an hour. Yep.
Yeah. So come check that out at patreon.com/EaglesFilmRoom. And other than that, we will catch you guys next week for another episode.